Hello, this is Jamie Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts in the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have Trump launches a series of eloquent and poignant attacks on his opponents that blow any accusations of cognitive decline out of the water by announcing Donald Key into cross post from the centrist subreddit, and that's obviously a sarcastic title because Trump's not a very eloquent person, but this is just kind of another orange man bad post. What's more? What more can you really say about than that? After the 10,000 for so time, you just kind of get numb to all these constant posts of orange man bad. I don't really like Trump, but ultimately, at some point you should find a new boogeyman. I think because he's been the boogeyman for like the past 10 years, and that's kind of tiring. It's like the people who worship him, they can be annoying as well. But the people who think he's the worst thing ever, I think they are somehow even more annoying. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have. It's interesting how average writer is a fan of this movie but can't get see the parallels to IRL because Northfire only goes after good people, while the IRL government only goes after bad people, and that's linked to the Wikipedia page for V for Vendetta. And yeah, I definitely do think, you're kind of seeing that play out in the UK right now with the government pretty much openly saying dissent is illegal and arresting people for comments on social media. And I don't think that's very libertarian. I think, we need to support free speech and we need to stand up against the fascist government who looks to censor free speech. But, in this case, that a lot of people think it's okay because they're going after people who say stuff that could be interpreted as racist, sexist, transphobic, etc., rather than minorities or the LGBTQ community, and that's why it just goes to show you that when you can market authoritarianism positively, a lot of people will fall for it, just like that will kind of happen during COVID, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, I'm honestly disgusted by how much money the two major parties are raising to get their party in the White House from Plasma M30, and that's a self-post that they made, and they said, Trump just announced he raised $28 million, Harris raised $200 million in their first week, and their war just keeps going up. That kind of money can do a lot of good for a lot of people in this country. I'm disgusted that people happily throw money at a politician who's already wealthy 99% of the time, but can't bother to throw some money at their local food bank to help their own community. The whole political game disgusts me, and I said it's all grift. We could get rid of, I think, all the elected positions, and we'd still probably be fine. We could probably just have an entirely voluntary government of people voluntarily throwing money around, and we'd still probably be fine. I think this is just all. We should just do away with all this grifting stuff. Just let people govern and run themselves, rather than let some tyrants govern and run our lives for us. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have It's Torture, Brutal Heat Broils Texas Prisons, Killing Dozens of Inmates from TheGuardian.com by CH4 Locks, and yeah, I definitely don't think that's good. With that being said, if taxpayers don't want to pay money for air conditioning, I don't think they should be forced to do so. The taxpayers are forced to pay for the prisons, and that's why I'm anti-prison, because what if taxpayers don't want to pay for prisons? Ultimately, I think the prison's a very unlibertarian institution because it says that freedom can be taken away if the government feels like it, and in some cases, that might be justified in like a case of murderers or rapists. But with that being said, ultimately, do you want the state to have the authority to imprison you for the rest of your life? And that's my thoughts on that issue. Yeah. And then we have UK man arrested for Facebook comment from TikTok.com by Sam Slayton. That's the video I think I shared a while here ago about the police going to a man's house and arresting him. It's from the Open Lens Britain TikTok account, I think it is. And yeah, I definitely don't think that's good. We shouldn't be justifying having an authoritarian police just coming to your house to arrest you because you said something stupid online. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have, to the woke people on the subreddit, what do you think will get you to turn against wokeness? And that's a self-post that I made, and I said, my money's on when some person who identifies as a rabid dog tries to bite you. Thoughts. And I just did see on Libs of TikTok, there was a person who identified as, he would look to be a Caucasian person. He said, oh, I identify as a black woman, but sometimes I identify as a dog and a cat, and that's increasingly with the stuff that the woke are enabling. I think people should be able to identify as whatever they want to. But with that being said, you should force other people to accept what you identify as if they don't want to. That's why I think I don't really care for all the MAGA stuff either. But MAGA, I would say, is more using cultural orthodoxy as means of control, while wokeness is more using cultural subversion as means of control. And I don't really care for either of them. But I definitely think the woke is more in control of the narrative right now, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Trump admits supporting electric cars because of Musk's endorsement. I'm for electric because I have to be, because Elon endorsed me very strongly, so I have no choice. Trump told a rally in Atlanta from the dailybeast.com by Donald Key. And I didn't comment on that one, but yeah, it just goes to show you how politicians are ultimately going to do whatever their donors want rather than what their constituents want, and that's my thoughts there. Then we have God declares there was no crowd, loyalist followers slurp it up, and that's a cross post from the conservative terrorism subreddit by CH4Locks, and now it's the truth from Donald Trump. Look, we caught her with a fake crowd. There was nobody there, and it's a photo of the crowd at a Kamala Harris rally. I think this might have been a real crowd, but I said, if AI, you can't really be sure anymore. So I think this was a real crowd. I think that's what I've heard. But regardless, it could have been, I don't know, maybe it was AI. AI is getting really good that it can start to manufacture whole videos. You don't even know what's really true or not anymore, So ultimately, just believe whatever you want to. If you want to believe it's a real crowd, believe it's a real crowd. If you want to believe it's a fake crowd, it's a fake crowd. But, just think whatever you want to think. That's my thoughts there. Then we have Kroger's new dynamic AI pricing scheme is corporate greed out of control from critics from rawstory.com by throwaway146225. And I didn't comment on that one, but I personally don't really care for that. But if Kroger wants to use that method as pricing, I think it should be able to. Maybe it could keep up more with the supply chain. What they have the supply of and compared to what's in demand. But I do think it just kind of takes away the human element of determining the supply chain as well. With that being said, maybe it will work. Ultimately, it's their business. They should be able to do what they want, and that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have 162 lies and distortions in a news conference. NPR fact checkers former President Trump 2.5 per minute from NPR.org by CH4Locks. And I like what Ink Ferrante commented here. Funny how they never seem to get around to fact checking well anyone else. Sure, he lies a lot, but it's not as if other political figures don't do plenty of lying themselves. And I would agree if they only seem to ever label Trump a liar. They'll never label someone like Kamala Harris a liar or Joe Biden a liar. That's because the media is inherently partisan, and despite how it's tries to present you as it's not partisan, it is, and that's why a lot of people go for Trump because the media will never criticize the Democratic candidate. Well, if Trump, so if Kamala Harris gets elected, they'll never meaningfully criticize her. But if Trump gets elected, they'll meaningfully criticize him. That's one of the big reasons I think a lot of people do go for Trump, because they actually do criticize him, unlike their own candidates. Then we have The Unknown Soldier from Donald Key, and that's crosswords from the Interesting as Fuck subreddit. The tomb of the Unknown Soldier has been guarded every minute since midnight, July 2nd, 1937. And he commented, what a waste of taxpayer money. And I guess I would kind of agree with that. I think if people want to pay for people to patrol the tomb of the Unknown Soldier, I think they should be able to do so. But that being said, I do agree, the money could probably be spent better someplace else. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we want Trump to run the country like he runs his business. Well, he runs his campaign like he runs his business by stifling anyone he can. From NBCMontana.com by Patom13. And I said in response, Trump has never really run the country or his business. Both of those were figurehead positions first and foremost. And that's my thoughts on that issue. I think Trump, he's real. The presidency is a figure of position. I've been through that a few times before. But with that being said, I also think, kind of him running his business was kind of a figure of position as well. He probably mostly had, his underlings run it, while he was mostly just the figurehead and mascot of it. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Project 2025 leak shows training on how to hide evidence from the public by Frosty Slawman. And that's a cross post from the Interesting as Fuck subreddit. And yeah, it's apparently how the Project 2025, what they say, have meetings in person instead of over email, because that's how you can get away with without having FOIA requests. Because if you have an FOIA request, you have to show them your emails. But if you have meetings in person and don't record them, you can do your stuff under the table. And I like what California King 77 commented here. I would love for liberals to make a big deal out of this, giving Fauci was just caught doing justice to avoid FOIA requests. And yeah, it just goes to show you that people on all sides of the political spectrum might use that as a means to hide their agendas and work as and use it as a means of forwarding them. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have U.S. Air Force avoids PFAS water cleanup, citing Supreme Court Chevron ruling from TheGuardian.com by Swanpanky Dan. And yeah, ultimately, I think we should have publicly clean drinking water. But with that being said, if people don't want to use their resources for that, I don't think they should be forced to do so. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have the way the U.S. corporate media transformed Kamala Harris from a national embarrassment to a transformative pioneer overnight without ever even pretending to care about anything that she thinks or believes is a powerful testament to how potent the science of propaganda is, from Glenn Greenwald. And that's a tweet from, I posted that, and that was him quote tweeting the Time magazine, and we showed your new cover, the reintroduction of Kamala Harris, and it says her moment on it. And I said in response, it really feels like HRC 2016 all over again, with the media setting up girl boss Kamala for her coronation. It's important to remember how HRC 2016 ended, though. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Trump can suck it, but it's important to acknowledge media bias. Because when Trump's on the cover of Time magazine, it's like he's having a meltdown. But when Kamala's on the cover, it's her being stunning and brave. And it just goes to show you why, 10 years ago, most people would agree that Time magazine was a neutral institution. Now people correctly see it for what it is, a propaganda rag for the Democrats. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have customers who save on electric bills could be forced to pay utility company for lost profits from Louisiana Illuminator from throwaway 146225. And I definitely would agree that's not good, Ultimately, it comes down to is the forced to do up. But, yeah, I do think if you do save money on bills, you shouldn't be forced to pay anyone the savings. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have the invasion of Russia, the quote-unquote invasion of Russia from Swanpanky Dan. That's someone, I think a tweet, but they cut off whoever tweeted it. But it says, breaking statement by President Putin. 1 week into the enemy's criminal invasion into our country, not one condemnation from world leaders did they not advise, who did not care about the dead littering the streets when they're Russian bodies. And I said, I don't care for U.S. involvement in Ukraine, but I'm tired of this guy's shit. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have New Virginia law prevents law enforcement from accessing period tracker data from VAdogwood.com by Ninja Lover. And yeah, I personally don't think the police should have access to pretty much any data. I don't think we should even have police. I think we should have local militia instead enforcing the laws. But ultimately, right now we have police, and ultimately they'll justify having whatever access to whatever data they feel like. And since they're in a position of power, there's sometimes nothing you can do about it. And that's my thought on that issue. I think we're gonna wrap it up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.